I was a county councillor up until the last elections, and during that period, I was asked by the county chairman to become involved and assist with the general concept of the scheme. And of course, the scheme is dependent on county council support and understanding to get the sort of funding that's available through the various government agencies, such as Ministry of Works and Ministry of Health.
That was quite a job, I guess.
Well, it took a little bit of understanding and a little bit of sort of pulling together, but yeah, the pleasure of the whole scheme is that it is a truly community scheme.
Yeah.
And you know, I found it a very pleasurable sort of occupation, becoming involved and seeing the progress, seeing it all come together. And as I say, it's a community project in the truest sense of the word. It brought together the various factors, and you know, the extent of cooperation was quite, you know, quite sort of stimulating.
Allan, can we take it back a couple of steps? Where did the germ of the idea come from in the first place? Did it come from one individual to say, "Hey, there's a stream up there on the mountain that we can tap"? Or
well, I presume that's right. As I recall, the original thought came from the local community council inviting ratepayers to come to a sort of a get-together and a bit of a chat show and find out how the ratepayers felt about the local scene, about their little internal situation, the roading, the footpaths and that sort of thing. And a certain Mrs. Taylor suggested to that meeting, and this is going back 2 years ago at least, why can't we have a decent water supply? I'm sick of these water shortages during the summer, sick of tanks running out. You know, is there a possibility of getting a decent water supply for Owhango? And that, I believe, would be the probably first thought that came across on the feasibility of even having a community water supply.
You mentioned it's a community scheme, and there's been a lot of pleasure, there's lots of smiles, there's a lot of sense of satisfaction today that it's been completed successfully. It works brilliantly well, and I know that Grant Fraser and his band of merry men, the PEP workers, are all delighted that it's all come together. This involved quite a bit of, shall we say, negotiation of various kinds, because perhaps you went over the normal sort of boundaries of what was considered to be normal at that stage in organising things.
Yeah, well, you're quite right in that regard, Arch, because the scheme was dependent on government subsidies, and we were dealing with how many different government departments, 4 or 5 directly in terms of subsidy input, and just the logistics of trying to line up one government department's okay with another one's requirements was quite difficult. And I often think of the common description for speeding up some of these big projects. I think the Minister of Energy calls streamlining some of his projects the fast track system. Well, you know, in the same description, I think this must be a speedway system. We managed to cut through all the regulations and red tape with such haste it was almost embarrassing. In fact, he had the funds available to spend on material before such things as the local Ministry of Works in Wanganui had given their okay in principle. You know, that's the way the thing came together so rapidly, it was almost embarrassing.
There we are, sow the seed of an idea and watch it grow. Arch King talking with Allan Bradbury, chairman of the water scheme out there at Owhango, and they'll be back together again, continuing to chat about the water scheme very shortly. 19 after 7.
Yes, Arch, we've got a pretty good breakdown of the costing of the scheme at this stage, and in round figures, the material for the scheme costs roughly 50% of the true cost. The material costs roughly 50%, and the installation and setting up of the scheme costs another 50%. So the scheme in round figures cost $500,000. Now, to the users of water in both the township and the rural area, they are in fact getting water reticulated to their properties and to their houses for 25% of the true cost, if we bear in mind the available subsidies on the material and the labour. The labour, of course, is all subsidised, being a PEP project, and
it was unique in itself, wasn't it?
It was one of the earlier PEP projects for this type of work, and if if I can take the word from the Ministry of Works in Wanganui, definitely the most successful. In fact, it's quoted in Ministry of Works circles as being an example of an extremely well organised and well-run scheme, and I think it's a credit to particularly Grant Fraser, our engineer, who has coordinated the planning and the designing and the work program for these men. And of course the men themselves who've done the work have applied themselves so honestly and so well. It's just been a pleasure to see them work, and they've got great satisfaction out of it too.
It's virtually a limitless supply now?
Well, no, it's got a limit because of the size of the intake and the size of the project. We designed the project for the Owhango community and the rural area, and we can't say that it's limitless in terms of quantity. The quality of the water and the source, of course, is limitless. The size of our intake limits us to the total volume of water. But the subsidies on the material amount to 50%. So the fact that there's a water supply to all these people, rural and townsfolk, 26 farmers to the north of town basically are benefiting from this source of water, and that in itself is a huge asset.
Allan Bradbury, Chairman of the Water Scheme, and certainly a man who's been the head of the whole scheme, and at this stage, I guess we've got to go to news. King Country Radio at Owhango.
The patch is on. Not long left the milking shed this morning, I understand.
Just time for a quick cup of tea before getting here, Rhonda.
How long have you been in Owhango, Eddy?
27 years this year.
From Ireland?
From Ireland, straight from Ireland to the bogs of Owhango.
Oh, I don't know whether we can accept that sort of comment on a day like this.
It's meant in the most complimentary manner, I can assure you.
Eddy, what did you come to New Zealand as? To go farming, or how?
No, not really to go farming. I came here for the herd recording services, and I spent 4 years in the Owhango district as a herd tester.
You're actually chairman of the Milk Producers Board here in Taumarunui. Owhango is our main milk producing area for Taumarunui, and I understand Turangi, is that right?
That's right. We supply right out to Turangi, to Matri, Ahura, to Waimea, and the Taumarunui town, of course.
How many dairy farms have we got in the area now?
We've got 9 dairy farms. Actually, only 8 cow sheds as a father and son partnership.
And are they all in Owhango?
They're all in Owhango with the exception of Western Curtin, who's down beside the manure works in Mananui.
And how many did we have in the past?
In 1946, when the company was first formed, there were then 9 suppliers and 3 vendors, as there are in Taumarunui today.
So how much milk are we actually putting out here a day?
Approximately 7,000 litres is consumed in the market daily, as compared with about 3,500 those days.
I understand this is also a bit historic for milk producers today.
Well, I don't know whether people realise, but straight in front of me is Bob Cedar, who's been working for our company 25 years in one day today. He picked up his first milk for the company on the 15th of March, 59. And the first bottle of milk came off the caddy. He found on the 16th of March, 25 years today.
Well, Bob Cedar, did you realise those facts?
Yes, I knew it was, this month was the 25th year.
There seems to be a life that agrees with you then, Bob.
Yes, well, it's sort of grown on me a bit now.
How have the plants changed in those times?
Well, when I first started, we were handling 20-gallon cans. We did that for 4 years. Then we the company bought a small 1,250-gallon tanker, which we still have as a standby. We operated that for 16 years, and we've now got this Arctic one here, which we've had for 5 years.
Well, I guess it made quite a change when you went to the tankers, roading requirements and things like that, and holding units on the farm, all those sort of things were needed?
Yes, well, the roads were already there because we were picking the cans up from the cow sheds, but they had to improve the roading a bit and make roundabouts for the tanker to get around. The tankers are totally different to can collection.
And how about you didn't have to be bothered with the dispensing of it at the other end, but I remember as a youngster myself when you had just the cans at the gate and a ladle as the milkman went past.
Yes, well, that was in force before we started before they started bottling the milk. The day I started picking up was the milk. Was the day they started bottling it. It's been bottled ever since.
Bob, it's a routine job. It's a job that you enjoy. You've made a lot of friends, contacts through those 25 years. Any particular incident stick out as being humorous?
Well, I pulled away one day and left the hose hooked up to the tank. I've only ever done it once.
That'll cost him.
You lose a bit?
A wee bit, yes.
Yeah. And you noticed the change in milk price through the years?
Yes, well, yes, from 4 cents it's a lot, and it's gone up a lot more now.
Subsidy. Well, Bob, 25 years, congratulations, a quarter of a century, nice going. What happens in the next 25 years?
Well, I don't intend to clear out yet.
Bob Cedar, nice to have you drop by. We don't want to hold you up too late because you might, you got 1 or 2 more calls to make?
Probably another 5.
As they raced across the ground, and the clatter of the wheels as they spun round and round, and he galloped into Market Street, his badge upon his chest. His name was Ernie, and he drove the fastest milk cart in the West. Now Ernie loved a widow, a lady known as Sue. She lived all alone in Lily Lane at number 22. They said she was too good for him. She was haughty, proud and chic. But Ernie got his cocoa there 3 times every week. They called him Ernie. And he drove the fastest milk cart in the West. She said she'd like to bathe in milk. He said, all right, sweetheart. And when he'd finished work one night, he loaded up the cart. He said, you want it pasteurized, because pasteurized is best. She says, Ernie, I'll be happy if it comes up to me chest. And that tickled old Ernie. And he drove the fastest milk cart in the West. Now Ernie had a rival, an evil-looking man called Two-Ton Ted from Teddington, and he drove the baker's van. He tempted her with his treacle tarts and his tasty oatmeal bread, and when she seen the size of his hot meat pies, it very near turned her head. She nearly swooned at his macaroon, and he said, now if you treat me right, you'll have hot rolls every morning and crumpets every night. He knew once she sampled his layer cake, he'd have his wicked way, and all Ernie had to offer was a pint of milk a day. Poor Ernie! And he drove the fastest milk cart in the West. One lunchtime, Ted saw Ernie's horse and cart outside her door. He drove him mad to find it was still there at 4:30. And as he leapt down from his van, off blood to his veins did course, and he went across to Ernie's cart, and he didn't half kick his horse, whose name was Trigger. And he pulled the fastest milk cart in the West. Now Ernie rushed out into the street, his gold top in his hand. He said, if you want to marry Susie, you fight for her like a man. Oh, why don't we play cards for her, he sneeringly replied. And just to make it interesting, we'll have a shilling on the side. Now Ernie dragged him from his van, and beneath the blazing sun, they stood there face to face, and Ted went for his bun. But Ernie was too quick, things didn't go the way Ted planned, and a strawberry-flavoured yoghurt sent it spinning from his hand. Now Sue, she ran between them and tried to keep them apart. And Ernie pushed her aside, and a rock cake caught him underneath his arch. And he looked up in pained surprise, and the concrete hardened crust of a stale pork pie caught him in the eye, and Ernie bit the dust. Poor Ernie! Ernie! And he drove the fastest milk cart in the West. Ernie was only 52. He didn't want to die. And now he's gone to make deliveries in that milk round in the sky, where the customers are angels and ferocious dogs are banned, and a milkman's life is full of fun in that fairy dairy land. But a woman's needs are manifold, and Sue, she married Ted. But strange things happened on their wedding night as they lay in their bed. Was that the trees a-rustling, or the hinges of the gate? Or Ernie's ghostly gold tops are rattling in their crate? They won't forget Ernie. Ernie! And he drove the fastest milk cart in the West.
That's for our 2 milkmen.
To celebrate the opening of the water scheme, what difference will this make to farmers here?
Well, in our field, in the town milk supply, one of the problems has been a good supply of water, and of a good quality of water, which has always been lacking. Only 2 or 3 farms enjoy that. So the implementation of this scheme today will be of terrific value to 5 of our farms supplying milk to Tamarnui.
You were telling me an interesting story a little while ago about you came out from Ireland to New Zealand, and one of the one of the perks of the job was free transport.
That's right, Rhonda. We were told when we were interviewed back in the old country that we'd be provided with free transport. But much to my disappointment, when I arrived in New Zealand, I was presented with a broken-down trotter and a rubber wheel buggy, and that was our transport. One of the more interesting episodes was one night, having no other means of travel, I went to the pictures in Matamata, and I got a ticket for having no lights going home on my horse.
You'd have difficulty finding a place to put them, I guess.
Well, that was the trouble. I tied them in the tail, but he kept flicking them off.
I don't know whether that's an Irish story or a true one.
No, it's true. I was actually fortunate not to get 2 tickets because I tied them to a telegraph pole where there was no parking.
Well, I guess you've seen quite a few changes in dairying here through the years. Originally, it would have started off with cans.
Yes, it started off with cans where my original memory of the situation was where the milk vendor came to the dairy farm, picked up the can of milk, and then drove around the village selling it to the householders who came out with the billies. The introduction of the Milk Act in 1944 necessitated the producers of milk and the vendors getting together. That's when the Tamarnui Milk Producers Company was formed. And it was formed by Robbie Bullions and run by him for about 25 years. I took over from him as chairman 8 years ago. So the company's been in Tamarnui ever since 1946.
Well, I've been in the odd milk shed myself over the years, and I've given a hand to milk a few cows. And most farmers always have a few interesting stories. They either have their favourite cow or something in particular that happens to them in the shed. What about you?
Well, I don't know. There are many stories that I can recall, but I don't think any of the ones at the top of my head this morning would probably be for a family program just such as ones they do this morning. I think suffice it to say that, yes, every herd would have a favourite cow. They're very much individuals. They're very much characters. And as they get older, kind of thing, they become part of the family's interest in one thing or another. And it's always a sad day when an old cow who's produced well over the years has got to go to the works. But I've always been motivated by a dollar sign rather than love of a cow. So that's been the trouble with the family all my life.
There's another one of the characters there. It's 4.5 minutes to 8.
And we have birthday calls, the Cobb & Co. birthday calls.
In the bush.
When I first went into the bush, I was driving the GMC roading truck, and our job was to follow up. There was a chap called Gordon Derbyshire. He used to be the bulldozer driver that used to put the roads in, and I used to follow up with the metal and metal the road roughly, and roughly I might add it was. Then the other trucks, the Ford with the ordinary driving axles would come along and they'd finish it off, and then someone with a tractor would grade it up, and that would be the road. And in those days, the roads used to stand up, I would like to say, probably better than they do today, because there was so much metal put into them, 2 feet in places of good, hard, grey wacky, and it used to stay there.
About how far did you used to cart the logs from the bush to the mill?
25 miles, I would think.
You were with Dominion Timber Company here too, and I understand that you actually helped fight the fire when the mill burned down in 1977. What was that like?
Well, it was a pretty rough fire. The siren went up in the early hours of the morning, and as we got close to the mill, it didn't appear to be much of a fire at all, but by the time we actually stopped the appliance, the whole mill seemed to be alight, and it just exploded in flames, and the fact was that the dry sawdust, the accumulation over all the years, was just like gunpowder, and it just went up, and we didn't have much of a chance to put it out. With the limited amount of gear we had in those days, we had to call Mananui for a backup, and there was a great big lagoon down the bottom, and we almost emptied that in about 4 hours pumping with all the pumps.
Would have been a sad day for Owhango.
It was a sad day, but they rebuilt it after that fire, and it sort of came to life again, and then we had the last fire was a disaster. That really burned right to the ground. It was well away before we got the message, and Mananui came, but we couldn't do anything more than put out the embers under the iron that was laying on top of it and save the 1 or 2 outbuildings.
Harold Mclean, you were another bushman in the area here.
That's
while
right,
worked
yeah.
for the mill. What was your job?
Well, I drove log trucks most of the time I was here, and worked in the bush as well, when I was wanted.
Did you see a change in the type of truck?
Oh, yeah. Started off, when I first came over there, had the big Army Max here, and then went into the hippos.
What's a hippo?
Well, a hippo is a log truck made by the Leyland.
It wasn't an affectionate name, it was actually a name for
Oh, yeah, that was the name for the truck, yeah. We had 3 of those here.
Sort of the bush life and mills, they have rather a colourful history, and you get names associated with them, like the Whistle Boy and the Breaker In and the Tailor Out.
Breaker Out.
The Breaker Out,
Yeah.
is it? The Breaker Out and the Tailor Out. And what do some of these names mean? What does the Whistle Boy do?
Oh, the Whistle Boy is mainly with a hauler. He's instructed by the Breaker Out when to get the hauler moving, so to pull the logs, you know.
What about the skiddy?
Oh, he's the fellow that's on the skids that does the loading and unhooking the tractors or haul or whatever the case might have been.
To those that aren't associated with timber mills or don't know anything about them, they probably wouldn't know what the skids are. What are the skids?
Well, the skids are where you pull your logs to load them onto trucks or, you know, onto... Well, in some case they had tramways, you know, and to load them onto the, jinkers.
Jinkers, there's another interesting name. I guess we could just go on and on.
Yeah, well, they only, the jinker, they do call a trailer. Some people have a tendency to call a trailer a jinker, too, you know, it's on behind a log truck.
Rhonda, it amazes me that when you finally start to actually become part of this day and you get to talk to the various people that have gathered to be our guest this morning, you could get into even one person's conversation and write a whole novel about it and be here for hours and hours and hours. I know that a lot of the people that are here today are going to be round for the day, and if you have half an opportunity to pop out here to Owhango, have a chat to these people. They're going to be wandering around and reminiscing with some of their old mates, and there's also all the displays moving in here into the area opposite the community hall at the moment. The official side of the day between 2 and 3 this afternoon. If you can get to Owhango today, by all means come out here. Bring a raincoat with you, okay? So we've got a very, very light drizzle at the moment, but all positive thoughts towards it breaking away to a fine day later on this afternoon. King Country Radio at the Water Celebration Day. It's 8:21.
They tried to find these 2 cups, Bootleggers and Froth Blowers Cup, for their school jubilee, but were unable to find them. They were in Owhango, in good safe hands. We probably won the last time it was played. Well, this Bootleggers Cup was made by a man called Bill Smith. He was an engine driver at Watkins Mill back in the early days at Carcahee. In 1933, he made this cup out of an old kerosene lamp. Rugby supporters and players, this cup in those days meant as much to Owhango Carcahee as, say, the Melbourne Cup means to Kiwi or Waverley.
It wouldn't hold much. It's got a hole in the bottom.
Yes. We had other things to drink out of. A bloke by the name of Chris Morris of Carcahee, he did the engraving on it.
It's beautifully engraved in black paint. Yes, that's very nice.
Yeah, we have another one here, which is called the Froth Blowers Cup. It was donated by a Carcahee man, T. Doak, presented to the Carcahee Rugby to be played between Owhango Wakapapa or Carcahee. I think GN are in for a couple of years on this one, but finally mainly was played between Owhango and Carcahee.
And it really was a rugby cup, despite it being called the Froth Blowers Cup.
Yes, there is reasons why it was called the Froth Blowers Cup.
Could you tell us why?
Or mainly was, keg beer in those days, a fair bit of froth about. And the other, the Bootleggers Cup, well, the word bootleg, it means a smuggler of alcoholic liquor. So I presume, I'm not certain, but Andy may get me right here. I would think perhaps because of sly grogging in those days, that was a typical, nice sort of a name to call a cup. Bootleggers Cup.
It took a while for you to get a license here, didn't it?
I think it was granted at 1955. I think the hotel's been going since 56. Same year as Owhango Bowling Club.
And people didn't get thirsty before that time anyway.
No.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, Andy? Can you recall those early days?
I played football here from a schoolboy. We never had much the refreshments afterwards. The only time they'd have a 5-gallon keg now and again. That was all we had.
Good. Yeah, we don't want to stress that aspect of it at all. Bill, how about you, Dick Richards? That compass of yours is a very interesting memento.
I wouldn't part with it.
How did you come by it?
My dad used to do a lot of blacksmith work on the railway, and he got it.
when he was on the railway. That's when the spiral first went through. And they used to buy it at Raurima for 6p. Sit in the train and you'd go round with it, and when you got to the national park, anybody coming down, you'd sell it to them for 6p. And that's how I got it.
Yeah. So it's a 6p compass, but it certainly gave you a graphic illustration of what that line was doing.
Yes.
And talk of that, there goes a train on the back run or whatever, without any carriages or wagons on the back. Yeah, so you've had it in your family for quite a long time.
Since the railway went through. Yeah. Since the spiral was first put through.
It's a marvellous feat. I was reading a book recently. They said modern engineers have checked it out for its gradients and the turns and everything, and they don't think that they could improve on it.
No,
on that particular piece of construction.
In those days, it was a wild country, the King country, all bush, and to get through wherever they could get through. Yeah. But there was a chap named Seeley. He reckoned to go from Carcahee out to Tirena through to Wairua that way. He said, you'll never make it this way. He said, you got the Owhango Bank, you got the spiral, and the Makatoki Gorge. But he said, but in Wellington with the hedges, that's such a short piece, they said, she's got to go through. And it was all put through pick and shovel, no bullies those days.
Yeah. It's amazing, you know, for a person like me who's only lived in this area for 4 years, the beauty of the bush and the river, only a matter of a mile or two across to the east of Owhango is a sight to be seen. And then, of course, we've got those big white things just down there, Narahoe, Tongariro and Ruapehu. Beautiful, beautiful scenery through here.
Oh, yes. See, I belong to Dennyburg by rights. I was born there in 1905. And I was 12 months old when the people shifted to Ratahi. It was all bush then. And my dad got a job at the Rangatawa Power Process, a blacksmith, and then onto the railway. And when I left school, I worked for Carter. I started in Carter for 1924. And in 1932, I was transferred here to Owhango. And I helped build the mill here, what's called the Dominion Sawmill Company. And I worked 51 years for Carter. Went to school with them, grew up with them, worked for 3 generations of them. And a lot of time I was the leading man there. The boss there, Waddy Boozlin, we all knew him. He went to Christchurch to the races sometimes. Give me the keys.
Must be something about the place to keep someone here that long.
Well, it's this way when you settle down here and everything, you know, and got in with the crowd here and everything. And the first game of rugby I played here, when I got here, they'd gone to Tamanui. So it was a junior game here. So I went down and played for the juniors. But the year before that, I played half a season, well, it wasn't quite half a season, for South Waikato. Played for the Bootleggers Cup. But what put me out a lot of times was a knee. I had a crooked knee. I did it for school days. And I still wear a bandage on the knee a lot of times. Yeah. And in 1926, I got a gold medal from Ruapehu for rugby.
Well, there's a lot of things we can talk about. We'll be back shortly. I believe there's 1 or 2 little swindles they used to run here at times where a bit of money would be put on at the post office and it would be somehow arrive down in town. I've heard a bit of a whisper about that. I don't know all the details. We'll ask you about it later.
Yes. King Country Radio forecasting moderate or fresh northerly winds with rain in the morning, heavy rain in town at the moment, and in the afternoon it should be mostly fine with only a few isolated showers and moderate or fresh westerly winds. It's becoming mild for Saturday now, mainly westerly winds with some showers. 28 minutes to 10. We have the Castaway line, of course, along.
Bill, you've got one, the Strawberry Man, and many parts. In fact, Bill, have your story.
Oldest resident footballer. One on cricket in Owhango. Oh, about 1938.
I've got with me Mr. Les Barber,
I was only a young fella, but I was playing cricket, and afterwards I used to always have a 2-up school down on the domain.
You arrived in Tamanui in 1912,
3 or 4 cars sort of faced in and into the ring.
What did you come to Tamanui
for? Pennies were flying in
the
air. Money.
Who did you work here in those days?
There was no shed, no lights in it, the keg was in there.
Plenty of bushwork.
Anyhow, the police came in the gate. There was one hell of a yell and a scramble.
Good job anyway.
Well, blokes
and what did
broke
you
all sorts of records, heading across the ring and into the bush.
here in
I'd
Owhango?
gone. I was one of the first to
Yeah,
go.
no,
Some that couldn't run, climb trees to hide. And all the cops got that day was the money in the ring.
Used to be
The
two
two
mills
blokes
up what they call
sat
echo
inside
lamps
in the
today.
dark, kept on drinking
That was
beer,
the
and
episode.
they weren't even interrupted.
In another 12 months, I suppose, I'll come down here around OEO.
Well, O'Donnell, Eddie Hill.
Oh, yes, I can tell you a story about my
Mill work and
one of our old neighbours
What
who's gone
job?
long
You took
ago.
a job in the bush?
Oh,
He used to like a bit of the
I've been through the mill
grog
in both
round,
lots.
sly grog round
done
Owhango,
everything.
and he
Yeah.
used to
You've
ride
done a
up
bit of
here on a
everything.
horse.
Bit of everything.
What did you enjoy the
I
most?
can remember my father
Oh,
seeing the horse go past the gate one wet day, just like
5 o'clock
this
whistle.
Must have been a long day for you in those days. What time did you start work?
Walked down the hill just to a
Mills
horse
used to work
before
about an
you
hour
walk
ahead of
just
the
below our
quarterly
house.
time. And we used
He's
to start
lying
at
in the
7,
water
so
table
it was,
with the water running down the back of the
about 6
step,
o'clock.
coming out beside
How
his
did you
boot.
get to work?
Then my
From
father,
where?
he got the old
we had
wheelbarrow
lorries
out,
around the mill.
put him in the wheelbarrow and
And,
brought him
We
inside.
lived pretty handy. There was a cookhouse
My
there.
mother,
And we stayed in them. And
he cooked some bacon and
seemed
eggs
to work
for
with no
him
trouble.
and got him on
But
his
we
feet
enjoyed
again
working.
and away he went home.
Break them down.
That was one.
If we filled
You imagine the water running in his
Back him
neck and out round his
with a
boots.
fenceman in the
My
tail out,
goodness
and we
me.
could
He
keep
must have
on
been
to them.
well insulated.
We were as happy as
Okay,
Larry.
thanks, Andy. And Dick Richards,
Yeah.
you've been thinking hard. How about a
tough,
yarn from the
hard
early
work,
days?
but, we
Well,
enjoyed
in the
it.
early days
What were the
here, we
wages
used to
like
send to
then?
Try Happy and get a keg of beer.
Oh,
So it was
I think
my
about
turn.
9 bob a day.
So I told them at the
Is that
station
good
to
money
give it
in
to
those
no
days?
one.
Oh, we kept
Till I
going.
got
We
there.
lived
But
through it all.
Watt landed
enjoyed
there with the
ourselves.
notes and everything, but he wouldn't give it to them.
That was about the
So
ruling
I
rate.
landed there.
Did you
After
actually
work,
get married
where was
here
he
in
gonna drink
Owhango?
Yes, I did.
So anyway, there was a chappie named
1927.
Rube Watson. No doubt you
And
know him.
what was it like for
Take
your
it down
wife?
to my place, he said. So that's
Oh,
where his
very
father
good.
lives now. So we all landed there with us.
We enjoyed all our, we were married over
went up
50
in the
years
air.
here, and
We got out.
we enjoyed every minute of it.
So where can we take
Had a
it?
good family, 2
So there
girls
was 2
and a
Smiths,
son,
Jimmy and
all
Joe.
done very well for themselves.
We took it round to the Catholic
What
Church.
about her
And
day?
we were
What
all
would her
in there
day been
drinking
like
this,
back
and they were
then?
singing and everything. Who should walk in was Mrs. Smith.
Cooking
She said, I'm
and
ringing the
did she
police
bake
straight
her own
away.
bread?
Yes.
Out we went, down to the wreck.
What about butter?
We got down to the wreck and
Oh,
they'd
well,
just
we
finished it.
I'd
And I had a
mixed
motorbike
carrot
at the
too.
time. I
And
grabbed
had a
the
little
keg, it was
separator
empty,
with
and
plenty
up
of
the
cream and
station
plenty of
with it.
butter.
Next thing, the cops were all round looking, and there was a scanner. I think
That was
somebody
only
got
done
down onto that
periodically.
road.
We
the
used
other
to buy
side
most of the
the
stuff.
main down there.
We
They
didn't
got
work all the
lost down
time,
there in the
and
dark. They
I'd like
ended
to
up in
borrow
the
up
Blackberry
some of
down.
the old
So I
invoices
took
to
the
tell
keg
you
back.
what
I said, no,
just how much the costs have increased. I got
like that.
some file right back to
The early
1920.
days of Owhango, and we thank
Interesting
Bill
to have a
O'Donnell,
look
through.
Andy
Read,
Hill,
yeah.
and Dick Richards for
Owhango,
joining
you
us
must have
with
seen a
the
lot of
memories
changes
there,
in the
some
township.
humour,
What
and
was the
a little
township
insight
like then?
once
Was it
again
bigger
into
than it is
what
now?
things were like in Owhango. We got
yes,
acquainted.
there wasn't as many
God
buildings,
said,
private homes.
let the water
But there's
teem
quite a
with
lot of
living
shops.
creatures, and
And,
let the birds fly above the earth
2 big
across the expanse
two
of the
boarding houses,
sky.
one up near the station, one
So
over
God
opposite
created the
school.
great creatures of the
The
sea
banks used to come
and
out here
every
once a
living
month.
and moving
Back in New
thing
Zealand, in the
with
back of
which the
Australasia.
water teems
There were 2
according
big
to their
tulip
kind,
gardens.
and every
Matter
winged
of fact,
bird
Mr.
according to
Lovelock,
its
the New
kind.
Zealand Blizzard champion,
And God saw
had
that it
one
was
that was
good.
around by
God blessed them and said,
on the corner
be
where you turn up to
fruitful
go
and
to
increase
school.
in number,
Mr.
and
Fred
fill the
Lovelock, he
water
was
in
in
the
New
seas,
Zealand,
and let the
champion
birds
billiard
increase
player.
on the earth.
And we used to get us young
One of a
cats in
number
there
of
playing
very
billiards.
suitable quotations
He
for
used to give us
the
195
supply of
and
water. The
200.
big turning on ceremony at
And
around
collect
2:30
2
this afternoon,
chocolates.
with the speeches starting at 2.
Because
And we
we
hope
get
that
about
you'll
1 or
join
2
us out
shots
here.
to
Historic
wake 'em up.
displays. There's
And
some
here's
old
like about
machinery
100
out here.
breaks
Some of the machinery
or
used
maybe
on the water supply
a couple
job.
of 50
Out
you
here,
go out.
there's a 2-ton Caterpillar on display. Maury Cooper's
couldn't
really
quite
gone to
beat it.
town. Fred Richards has got his
Well,
old
that's the-
circular
you can
saw
just imagine
mounted on the front of his tractor there.
well, we were
There's
in
going to be a
Newcastle.
wood shop for some of the old stationary engines. The single cylinder bangers are set up as well.
Shrewd old
All the
gentleman.
latest ski gear is here for the
one-stop ski shop. Plus people are down from Auckland today. So if you're at all interested in ski gear, do make sure that you come out today to Owhango, because there's so many things happening reflecting the activities and the future of the town on this very special day, the turning on of the new water supply. It's 5 minutes to 10. Arch King from Owhango.
I understand you're quite a keen sportsman. You're actually
cosily ensconced in this caravan at the moment, and we have Rhonda out there ready to talk very shortly to Les Barber. I know away in the display part of the area here opposite the community hall is Arch King.
Thank you. The one-stop ski shop right here with a big display and an important display for people contemplating going skiing this winter time. Peter Bethwaite has shown a great deal of support for skiing over the years, set up his one-stop ski shop here, and he's right into this sort of industry. Peter, pity about the rain. It could mean that we're in for a long, snowy winter. I guess you've been saying a few prayers for that for a while.
I would certainly say so, Arch. Now, part of a little bit of history, perhaps, of Owhango General Store. I've only lived here 22 years, so I'm a relative newcomer. Only a baby. Only a baby, right? Yeah, it was. Later on, you're going to hear from some old-timers, and in particular, I think of Les Barber, who actually works in the shop, and perhaps he can give you a lot more of the old history than I could ever be able to. Those old days were great, though, you know. We had a lot of good times, and
very close.
Unfortunately, when the mill burned down, everything seemed to hold up around our ears, and
on the left-hand
we went
side,
through a pretty rough patch. Now the future looks pretty bright. There's the new houses all done up and sold, mainly to skiers and ski-orientated people. The future looks good once again for Owhango and for skiing. A little bit about perhaps what's going to happen to Owhango General Store. In the next 6 weeks, you'll be able to buy your, well, hopefully 6 weeks or so, you'll be able to come and buy your hamburgers and fish and chips. And our local lady, Beth Marahi, who I'm sure you all know, will be taking over that side of the business, and we look forward to that. Quite exciting.
Crowd left here today.
Shortly by Southern Exchange, and just before that, we'll be talking to Warren Freeman from Furniture House.
On the first soldier settlement that were drawn in around Owhango.
You're 92 years old, and you're still a very young 92. What do you attribute your long life to?
You want me to tell you what I told you before?
Well, you tell me. You tell me the truth. What do you attribute it to?
I suppose a contented mind.
And what did you tell me before you attributed it to?
Plenty of beer and plenty of girlfriends.
Plenty of beer and plenty of girlfriends. Yeah. I thought you couldn't get beer here in the old days.
Oh, we found a way.
You can't argue with that. There's Rhonda Wood talking with one of the old identities, in fact, the oldest resident of Owhango at this particular point in time, Les Barber. 16 minutes to 11.
I like his remedy for old age.
Well, you're doing well, and you've got probably many years ahead of you. Live to be 150 if you stick by the way you're doing it at the moment.
Well, I've only got half the recipe. I won't tell you which half.
Oh, yes, okay.
You're finished, have you?
Well, we're going to actually have the PEP workers. Now, they have been a very, very important part of the water scheme itself, and they've actually got a song for us. I'll let you have it for a while, and we'll come back very shortly, hopefully to hear from the PEP workers, Paul Herbert and the gang. Arthur Sutty we heard from very earlier on in the morning, far too early for you to be awake, but they'll be along very shortly to just talk to us about the scheme itself and the enjoyment they got out of it and sense of pride of being part of a very, very special activity out here at Owhango.
Is that the New Zealand Railways we can have?
It is indeed, and there's a lot of traffic going through here, Mike. I just didn't realise that the line was as busy as it is.
The people, are they coming out from town?
Not a lot at the moment. There's a steady trickle, I think would be fair to say.
And there's plenty for them to see?
Oh, yes, indeed. The history is just laid out before you in front of your eyes here. There's photographic history in the hall and the visual displays, both old and new, right here opposite the community hall at Owhango today. Come out and see us because certainly it's well worth the look.
Of course, at your age, you'd be able to really fill them in and all that.
We have the PEP workers have just joined Arch King.
Well, some of them anyway. Hi, what's your name?
David.
David? Okay, hi, and yours?
Premier.
And yours?
Catherine.
And how long were you working on the scheme? Did you work on it from start to finish, or did you come on the beginning or middle or the end, or where did you start?
Oh, about middle.
About the middle of the scheme. Did you have to do the hard work down the hill, down into the gorge?
Yep.
You worked on that. Did you strike much stinging nettle?
No.
You were lucky. You knew what you were looking for. How about you? Which part of the scheme did you work on?
Digging.
You were a digger.
Yeah.
And you didn't use too much in the way of sort of tractors or diggers, did you? You used the shovel.
Yeah.
Well done. Congratulations. How about you, Dave?
I've put a part-time down the goods.
Did you? Pretty hard work down there at times.
A long way back up after work.
Yeah, that's for sure. They tell me it's a long way back up after work. We'd like you to crowd around. Arthur's here. He's going to make sure that you sing as well as you can because, come on, we want everybody. They're all ducking in and out of the tent to make sure we hear plenty of noise. They have their song ready for us. They're going to sing it again tonight at the cabaret because it's a great day for Owhango. It's a great day, we should say, for the Irish, well, that's coming up in a few days from now. St. Patrick's Day, but for today, it's the water scheme. And we do have plenty of water outside as well as in the pipes. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Here we are down the line, BP water line. Digging here, we're digging there, we're digging everywhere. People pass us all the time, tooting, we don't mind. Then comes rain and hailside, but we still work on. We're digging here, we're digging there, we end up digging everywhere.
Thank you, is that it? Yeah. Sorry, we had a train a couple of minutes. We should have it all over again, shouldn't we? Yes, we're going to have one more verse because we had a train and we still have a train thundering through. The railways are certainly doing big business today. All right, gang, let's call that a rehearsal.
I'm just keeping an eye on the train because it
the train is still
very,
going
very
through.
long. We'll just wait for it at this stage. The rain continues to come down here at Owhango, but lots and lots of people coming in, both guesting with us here at the radio station out here at Owhango today, and also, of course, involved in having a look around the displays and the both in the hall and on the area of land opposite the community hall. Well, Arch, we can cross back to a remake of the original song.
Okay, we're all set. 1, 2, 3.
Here we are down the line, BP water line. Digging here, we're digging here, we end up digging everywhere. People pass us all the time, tooting, we don't mind. Then comes rain and hail shine, but we still work on. We're digging here, we're digging there, we end up digging everywhere.
Thank you, and congratulations. They say never any complaints. It didn't matter what the weather was like. Even you couldn't get the old shovel into the ground. The boys and girls, the PEP workers, kept going. Thanks a lot. We'll no doubt hear you again tonight at the cabaret.
One interesting thing that we struck, Arch, when we walked across the scheme itself was where the levels had to be very, very correct because you're dealing with water flow, of course, and Grant would come along with his theodolite and level and say, well, I'm sorry, workers, but she's got to be another 9 inches down there. And they'd put the level in another 9 inches below and said, well, you know, quite honestly, we need another foot out of that. And in fact, they were digging in very narrow 10-inch deep trenches at times. Quite incredible. 5 minutes to 11.
Yes, it is.
What were they talking about?
I've just been listening this morning to some of the history out there, and, you know, they're talking about the 1940s, and they're talking about horses and going to town through the bush and catching the train once a week.
I could see you with an old hat on and a horse and cart delivering the milk in a cream can.
You have visions, do you?
Be a great job for you, wouldn't it?
Is Frank out there?
Frank's around somewhere because I saw the mobile bank arrive just a little earlier on, so we know that we can go and talk to Frank Land at some stage or invite him into our boudoir, into the awning here right alongside the mobile studio today.
Tell me, does he have free samples of his wares?
Well, yes, we could do. Interest-free loans.
Yes.
The Free Generation Chop, which was Dick, Fred and Dale Richards, have decided to postpone their event because of the danger of losing an axe if the handle was wet, and it certainly would be, until the sunshine. So Dick, Fred and Dale are positive thinking, and the Free Generation Chop will occur when the sun starts shining. Here's Arch King.
We're talking about the sports and the sports activities of Owhango now, and we have a number of guests in our little portable studio, and Marge Brown. Well, Madge, you arrived here, I believe, as a 25-year-old bride, correct?
Yes.
Where from?
Well, I was 3 years student nurse at the Taverny Hospital, and it was a bit too hard for me. I had to give it up.
How long have you been here in Owhango then?
49 years.
Goodness me, you've seen some changes then.
Yes. Yes, lots of them.
Tell us about some of them.
Oh, It was a much larger place than this when I came, and there were lots of mills scattered all around the place, but they've all gone, and I'm afraid most of the shops and all that too.
Imagine this water supply if you had it that many years ago. What a difference it would have made.
Well, yes, it would.